I'm James Brierton in Charlotte. We're coming on the air here with the Carolina Weather Group special report. It is July 6, 2025. On the Sunday night, we are tracking dangerous flash flooding situations across the Carolinas, which are the result of tropical storm excessive rain brought on by Tropical Storm Chantal today. We should let you know at this hour that the storm itself no longer holding on to that tropical storm categoristic, if you will. But that doesn't mean that we're out of the woods just yet. And let's take you right on out to live radar right now and kind of show you what the situation is as we come up at about 10:20 on this Sunday night. So looking right now, the what's left of some of this tropical moisture right now is still happening just north of Interstate 85. Say if you're in Roxborough, for example, and you can see on your screen right now in bright green. Those are flash flood warnings. We'll talk more about them in a little bit. But we're still waiting on all of this moisture here to exit up into Virginia, which it will do through the course of the remainder of tonight and through some of the overnight hours. But what it's leaving behind in its wake is a situation that we want to make sure we alert you to before you go to bed. So the reason we still have flash flood warnings up further south of where the moisture is right now is because places like the Haw River are continuing to rise and actually will be threatening their record-breaking historic all-time high by the time we get to daybreak. And so that's why we have numerous flash flood warnings in effect right now. Some of them are that considerable level, that tier 2 out of 3 for a flooding situation. And if you live in these areas, chances are you got a wireless emergency alert. If you live in any of these counties on your screen right now and you did not get a wireless emergency alert, make sure you have those turned on, because as we go through the overnight hours, the National Weather Service will be sending out more updates as the situation warrants. NOAA weather radios are also a fabulous way to be notified of some of what's happening. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth. I wanted to start right now with what's happening live time. That is the most urgent. And we're also going to tell you a little bit about what happened earlier today, because we know some of you watching in South Carolina and in other portions of North Carolina also dealt with this storm, which made landfall early this morning. Here is a live look right now at North Carolina State University in Raleigh, where the rain is continuing to come down. We're looking at the bell tower here. And as you can clearly see, the rain is still falling, and it is still falling hard. And that's really the reason that some of these flash flood warnings are in effect, because the rain is not done. And then even once all the rain has fallen, we have to get all of this rain someplace. And so there's going to be a multi-day operation here of trying to get this water to eventually flow back out to the Atlantic Ocean, believe it or not. So let's show you right now the situation starting in North Carolina, because I think the drive NC map really drives this point home, folks. Because if you look right now at the center of your screen, all of these yellow exclamation points, these are storm-related closures. Almost too many for me to actually go through, but we have dozens of them. And it's actually what has prompted the Alamance County Emergency Management to take to Facebook at this hour to say, and I read, "We urge all citizens to stay home or stay in a safe location away from any flood waters if you do not need to be out tonight. Also, if you are caught in flood waters, do not attempt to ford the water. Stay safe." And then there are scary situations playing out, such as this comment here, which I cannot independently verify, but it's here on the Alamance County Emergency Management Facebook page, where one gentleman writes, "The bridge on this road," and he includes a screenshot, "has washed away. Residents are unable to leave, and at least one person is reportedly stuck on the bridge." So you can actually see that Alamance County writes back, "We have notified the 911 center of this call." I mean, that is fabulous social media management from the Alamance County Emergency Management. And if you are in a situation where you need emergency help, please be sure to dial 911, because we can't guarantee right now that all of these emergency managers are going to get an opportunity to look through this. You can see another picture here on this same post of water starting to fill up. I'm not exactly sure where in Alamance County this apartment complex is, but you can see we've got water up about halfway on these car tires. And we're going to look at some more pictures, but let's look right here, right now, at the flood situation that is ongoing. And it's the Haw River at this hour that is kind of the point of concern. And there could be others that develop throughout the course of the overnight hours. So if we're talking about an area that you don't live in, but you live near a creek, stream, or river, or low lying area, before you go to bed tonight, make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings, because there could be developments that play out here during the overnight hours. So right now, where it is still raining, right? Still raining up here in the I-85 corridor, out over here towards Burlington. Just take a look at where we're at with the Haw River. And you can see this one is actually located also in the jurisdiction of the municipality of Haw River. You can see right now we're at 25.54 feet, and that has risen, 23, 22 feet since 4 o'clock this afternoon. This river was at about 2.5 feet at 4 o'clock. And now, as we have just passed 10 o'clock, we're looking at 25.5 feet. That is moderate flood stage. We are knocking on the door of major flood state here, which would be about 24 feet. And you'll notice, if you're watching with us on Facebook or YouTube, I know some of you might be listening on an audio podcast. I'll try to describe this for you. Those observations not only are obviously happening only in the myriad of a few hours, but that is a straight vertical line essentially here on this graph for how fast this is rising. And this purple represents the forecast. Okay. So it's forecasted to crest out at 25.8 feet. Well, we're already at 25.5 feet, and the trajectory is still rising. Matter of fact, if you read the description of the flash flood warning that NOAA has put out, they issued the most latest flash flood warning for this location at 8:11 tonight, and it goes until 1:15. They may issue more. Either way, we're about halfway through this one, right? So it says at 8 o'clock, emergency management reported flooding due to thunderstorms, heavy rain in numerous locations across the warned area, which in this case includes Pittsboro, Chapel Hill, and Maben. Between 2 and 6 inches of rain have already fallen, and additional rainfall amounts of 1 to 3 inches are possible in the warned area. So right now we're in the midst of them getting this additional 1 to 3 inches of rain on top of the 2 to 6 they already have. Flash flooding is already occurring, and obviously the additional rain is not going to help that situation. Let me jump over to radar. We'll get to some of these other rivers here in just a moment, but let me jump over to radar so that I can kind of show you what we're dealing with. Because when you look at live radar, you can certainly see, right? So that Haw River area, that Burlington area right in here, still raining at this 10:30 hour. But if I ask the Raleigh radar to think about all of the rain it saw today and switch this over to total accumulations of rain, these are radar estimates. They're not always exact. The radar is scanning the atmosphere and measuring how much moisture it's seen in the atmosphere today, but assuming most of that actually reached the ground. We're already talking about amounts pushing 11 inches in Maben, according to radar estimates from the Raleigh radar site. Okay, so some of these most heavy rainfall amounts, about 11 inches in Woodland and counting. Green Level, you're included in this. I-85, you're included in this. Okay. And now the rates kind of really shoot the gap between Durham and Greensboro. I'm not saying it didn't rain in Durham, and I'm not saying it didn't rain in Greensboro, and we have plenty of examples that it did, but the heaviest amount of rain is kind of right between those two locations. And you can see just to the south and west here of UNC, we have more 9, 10, 11-inch estimated rainfall amounts. This is kind of right along US Route 15 down towards Pittsboro. Okay. And this area is going to come back in here in a minute when we talk about where the Haw River flows down to. Okay. Because we're going to talk about where all this rain is going to be going. But you can see just purely based on how much rain was recorded and how much rain fell in one particular location. This is how much fell vertically from the sky, and then we're going to talk about this horizontal flow thing in just a moment. Again, if you are watching from other areas, yeah, we got lots of rain this morning when this storm came ashore around the Myrtle Beach area. And we know near Whiteville, we got about 7 inches. This is right there on the North Carolina side of the North Carolina-South Carolina border between I-95 and the coast. Okay. We know we got some flash flooding down towards Wilmington. We know we also got this band essentially came right on through North Myrtle Beach, Green Sea. And so the storm, as it came ashore, and made landfall as a tropical storm, dumping kind of this narrow band of excessive rain. The band itself is maybe only 40 miles wide in parts. Okay. And as we came up to Lumberton, an area that we know has seen hurricane related flooding in years past, we're looking at 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. As we continue to kind of follow this up, again, once we get to that Fort Bragg area outside of Fayetteville, just on the east side of some of these heavy rainfall amounts, 5 points here in North Carolina, 6, 7 inches of radar estimated rain, according to the Wilmington radar. And again, Aberdeen, Southern Pines, this is just on the east side of that I-73, I-74 corridor. You can see we're still seeing 4, 5, 6 inches of rainfall accumulations. And then again, kind of filling in that gap there with the Raleigh radar. It seems that the most rainfall from this storm was right here in the I-85 corridor between Durham and Raleigh, where that flash flooding is ongoing and will continue during the overnight hours. Matter of fact, I can actually hear in my ear right now an updated flash flood warning that is coming in. I'll go ahead and put this on the screen for you. If you've been watching our Carolina Weather Net, then this screen will look familiar to you. But the National Weather Service in Raleigh has extended the flash flood warning for Alamance, Chatham, Durham, Orange, and Randolph until 2 a.m. It was 1:15. Now it's 2 a.m. And the updated context here is at 10:30, widespread flash flooding is ongoing across much of Orange, Alamance, and Chatham counties this evening, as rainfall amounts as I've been telling you, between 4 to 7 inches have already been observed in the area, with localized amounts in excess of 8 inches. Numerous water rescues have occurred this evening, and some homes have been flooded. Do not travel unless absolutely necessary. It is very difficult to see the dangers of flooding at night. This is a life-threatening flash flooding situation with thunderstorms producing this flash flooding. It is ongoing. These locations include Chapel Hill, Burlington, Graham, Hillsborough, Pittsboro, Silver City, Carborough, Mabin, Goldston, Elon, Gibsonville, Liberty, Haw River, Ramsar, Franklinville, Swampsonville, Alamance, Staley, and Steufen. My apologies if I did not say those all correctly. They're on the screen here for you. And even after I sign off tonight, what you see on the screen right now, this is exactly what we continue to stream all night long over on the Carolina Weather Net on YouTube, so that you can get these real-time updates straight from the National Weather Service. So let's go back over to the flood inundation map right now and look at some of these river creeks and streams so that you can see exactly where this is happening. This is in this area right here, right? We already showed you that the Haw River at Haw River is coming up on major flood stage. But notice downstream, the Haw River here at Bynum, okay, is at about 18 inches. I'm sorry, 18 feet. 18 feet. And it is forecast to crest at about 8 a.m. at 21.2 feet. Well, 21.8 feet would be a record. And so we've got at least a flirt with a record, if not an actual record, to break here at about 8 a.m. in the morning. And again, this also shows you the Haw River here near Bynum, about 3, 4 o'clock. This is when it starts rising. This one was at about 3 feet. The last one was about 2 feet. This one starts about 3.5 feet, and again has now climbed to nearly 18 feet in the span of 6 hours. Updating in real time here on the screen for you, and is not expected to finish climbing until 8 a.m., cresting at 8 a.m. near or at record levels. How far back in time do you need to go in order to recall that record of 21.8 feet on the Haw River near Bynum? Hurricane Fran is where that record comes from. So this crest is going to be at or very near that record. And that's why we have these flash flood warnings of considerable threat out tonight for numerous areas. I'm going to follow the Haw River here for a minute because the Haw River eventually merges up and becomes the Cape Fear River. And so we don't right now have flooding occurring along the Cape Fear, but all of this water is going to go somewhere. And so even as we look as far ahead to Tuesday here at the Cape Fear at Lillington, we are forecasting for moderate flooding as all of this water is going to work its way down. Same thing with the Little River at Manchester, looking ahead to about late Monday into Tuesday. Cape Fear at Fayetteville, at least minor flooding by the time we get to Wednesday morning. Okay, it's going to start to climb later on Tuesday. And so you can follow this flow all the way out along the Cape Fear River, just pushing out the timeline little by little as the water flows down. Cape Fear to Elizabethtown, we're not expecting a crest until, when is July 10th? Thursday. You might not even start to see a rise until later Monday or Tuesday. Texas is obviously top of mind right now for many of us, even probably for a lot of us here in North Carolina currently experiencing this tropical storm. Texas flooding is off the charts. I don't want to diminish the threat with this. We are going to see an excessive amount of water bulging or flowing its way out to the Atlantic. And if you live or travel or are camping or are visiting along a river, creek, or stream, you need to have multiple ways to receive weather warnings, and not just multiple apps, but multiple different devices. Don't expect to see Texas level flooding here in the Carolinas, but we are going to see some near or at record level floods here in the Carolinas. And that's why National Weather Service has taken to social media to try to get this message out. Now, we know this storm came ashore early this morning, about 4 or 5 a.m. or so. Dan Whitaker here in North Myrtle Beach, feeling some of those winds, gusty winds. Okay, over 40 to 50 mile per hour sustained winds. You can see it in Dan's face. You can see it in the trees blowing around. If you want to check out more of what happened in Myrtle Beach, we have a whole hour with Dan on our YouTube channel, driving around Myrtle Beach with some of the observations that happened there this morning. We do have rainfall totals again in that Myrtle Beach area, about 4 inches. Lumberton, about 4 inches. But some of the, again, most concentrated rainfall amounts we are seeing at this hour play out between Durham and Greensboro in North Carolina. As the storm came through the central part of the North Carolina, Southern Pines was one of those areas where we saw a lot of the rain. These are pictures on your screen right now from the town of Southern Pines, where the Kohl's Shopping Center on Brucewood Road flooded. Now, this was due to the failure of a retaining wall on the property, and first responders were on scene to assist with the evacuations of this shopping center. I'll make these pictures a little bit bigger for you here. So you can see we've got water up to the curb, up to some bushes, up to the wheel wells of some cars here. Again, this was in part in Southern Pines due to the failure of a retaining wall. First responders here on scene. Here, this is probably a picture of that retaining wall, if I had a fathom to guess. Because you can see water flowing down into this parking lot. And that is really causing some steady flow. Remember, it does not take much. It does not take a large amount of flowing water to knock you off your feet, and only a little bit more to float your car away like it's a boat. Okay. And so the town of Southern Pines not only had to deal with the failure of that retaining wall, they also had a dam failure. Now, when you picture dam, you're probably picturing something like the Hoover Dam, but there are a lot more smaller dams in neighborhoods across this country that look a little something like this. If you're listening on our audio podcast right now, this looks to be maybe a golf course, and this maybe is a cart path here, okay? So it's probably not even a dam you would think twice of, other than it's like a berm, okay? It's like a little hill that was keeping the water back in a retaining pond. That gave way, allowing all of the water that was being held back in that little pond or lake to flow on out. I'm not trying to diminish this, but again, the sentence dam break always envisions like the Hoover Dam. But we have a lot of these nestled in communities across the area. If you're watching with me right now on Facebook or YouTube, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen what was probably a nice water feature on this golf course is just gone. Okay. The whole thing drained out. All that water came out very quickly. And you can see how it eroded away. This is the food bank on Central and Eastern North Carolina 195 Sandy Avenue in the town of Southern Pines. It created a canyon in this parking lot that is, I'm going to estimate 4 or 5 feet deep. This is going to take a long time to repair. I think we can see maybe some pipe fixtures here in this picture, and certainly some sort of retaining wall or maybe sewage infrastructure on the right-hand side. Down trees are numerous. It's hard to spot, but I think there's a car on the right-hand side of this picture. I think there was a car down at the base of that tree. I think I can actually zoom this in and get you a better look at this. Matter of fact, this town of Southern Pines photo, I think, does show a red vehicle there, just at the base where some of this water was flowing down along this roadway. This is Lakeside Court in the town of Southern Pines today. This is a home in Southern Pines. Let me see if we have an address. In Longleaf, we're looking at somebody's back patio. Maybe it's recessed into the ground. I can't really say for sure, but what I can say is the water is as high as that outdoor table. We see the top of the table. We see the top of a chair, and maybe like a hot tub or a barbecue, something with a black covering on the left-hand side. So we're probably talking, how high is the table off the ground? 3 feet? 3.5 feet. Okay. Scenes like this playing out across communities. Town of Southern Pines, just one that is sharing a lot of these photos with us. Here is an even closer look at some of those, that car that maybe got swept off the roadway. We do have an updated flood warning coming in right now, and we're going to take you back over to our Carolina weather bot, okay? Because this is a flood warning that is updating the impact from moderate to major and increasing the duration. And again, this is the Haw River at Haw River affecting Alamance County. So we're going from a moderate flood to a major flood, and this will continue all through Monday and into early Tuesday morning. 18 feet is what we're looking at right now. That's when minor flood begins. Overflow begins on both banks at the water treatment plant at about 20 feet or about 18 feet. At 20 feet, there is significant overflow on the right bank opposite the water treatment plant. Water also reaches the Red Slide Park upstream at the Main Street Bridge. At 23 feet, moderate flooding begins, and flooding reaches the base of the water treatment plant. This is also a significant flooding of the Red Slide Park upstream. This is just outlining what could happen in each one of these scenarios. At 25.5 feet, the water treatment plant building floods. At 26 feet, trailer homes adjacent to the river and the water treatment plant flood. Evacuations may be necessary once we get to 26 feet. At 27 feet, major flooding begins and the town of Haw River begins to flood. At 28 feet, floodwaters reach the bottom of the bridges across I-40. At 9:45 tonight, we were already at 25.5 feet. So that is when the water treatment plant starts to flood. We're only half a foot away from the trailer homes flooding and only 1.5 feet away from portions of the town of Haw River flooding. And the river is forecast to crest at 27.5 feet, which is going to bring the waters near or at the bottom of the bridge across I-40. So this is a situation where if you live in Alamance County along the Haw River, you should pack a go bag. You should monitor for local evacuation notices if you are near the Haw River in Alamance County, because you need to be monitoring your wireless emergency alerts, your NOAA weather radio, your broadcast radio and television. At all hours of the night tonight, it could come an evacuation notice may be necessary depending on where you live, because we can already see, as they outline here in the text of the flash flood warning from NOAA's National Weather Service, what happens at each one of these flood stages and where we are at in this scenario. So there you can see it right there on your screen. That is the new updated flood warning that has been issued for this portion of Alamance County. We do have a new storm report as well, too. Flash flooding right now has closed a road outside of Wagram in Scotland, North Carolina. We'll talk more about some of these individual flood reports here in just a moment. in just a moment. We'll also get to some of your chats and questions that I know are coming in. Yes, we did have a tornado, at least one, probably more than one, occur today as a part of Tropical Storm Chantal here in North Carolina. WRAL posting this, Mike Mays. Debris ball. Saw debris from the tornado elevated about 1,000 feet above the ground. The tornado spun up quickly from the east and hit the hangars and the aircraft. This is at the Raleigh Executive Jet Port, then lofted the debris into the air. It all happened very quickly at about 3 p.m. in Lee County. So a debris ball is when radar sees something in the sky that is not rain. And so the tornado came through, went right over Raleigh Executive Jet Port Airport, not Raleigh Durham, but Raleigh Executive Jet Port Airport, picked up debris, pieces of metal, pieces of wood, and tossed it up into the air. And once it's up there in the air, that's when the radar can see it, and that's what that debris ball signature is. We also had these pictures come in from Christian Etheridge, and you can see the before and after of a likely tornado that ripped through a neighborhood here near Mabin. Okay, you can see snapped trees, patio furniture all thrown around. You can literally see where those trees just snapped in half, some 10, 20 feet up from the base. We do have flooding ongoing tonight. We just retweeted this over in the Carolina Weather Group account from Paige here. This is in Chapel Hill. Okay. So Chapel Hill, I see post office vehicles and things in the water. We see a home with water up several feet, maybe about 4 feet into the first floor. Over there on Willow Drive, it looks like that might be. And so we're going to keep a very close eye on that. But just how many flood reports have we received so far? Well, the National Weather Service, who has done a phenomenal job all day long of issuing these real-time warnings across the Carolinas, is also working to verify as quickly as possible storm damage reports. They always do the immediate warnings first, and then they start documenting what we saw to help them not only back up and story tell their warnings, but also to document historically what has happened. So let me actually, what you see on your screen right now is not the right day. Bear with me just a second. This must be from one of the previous times we pulled this bad boy up. So we're going to go right now, and we're going to fast forward this as a reminder for anybody who might be finding this stream in the future. It is July 6th. It sure is. Has been all day. July 6th. In case you had any doubt whether or not you were watching me live, you were catching me trying to update this graphic, which I got to tell you, does not currently want to update. So bear with me. My apologies. I know many of you are also leaving me some comments on our live stream tonight. I'm going to try to get to those here in just a second. Just a second, indeed. But I want to make sure we can just show you the swath of kind of damage left behind by this storm, which obviously is still ongoing tonight for many, and also probably worth mentioning. For those of you like me who live in Charlotte, you might be saying, what storm? Because I hate to break it to some of you who are in the thick of this, it did not impact everyone the same way. And you could even see when I showed you some of those excessive rainfall totals earlier, how that swath really came up. So here we go. On your screen right now, what I can show you first is the history of where the flash flood warnings were. Those are the green polygons on your screen. So you see they start around Myrtle Beach, and they come up inland here over the I-95 corridor. And you can see, again, we had flooding over the Lumberton area. We started to get a few more tornadoes in the central North Carolina area once we got past I-95. Okay, so we had flooding reported here at Bowmore. Norton Road flooded and closed due to floodwaters. Also here near Wagram. I think that's the one we just received. I was just telling you that a minute ago. This one in Aberdeen, flash flooding with photos show an impassable depth and rapidly flowing water covering US 15.501 in Southern Pines. We showed you lots of pictures from Southern Pines. This tinier little flash flood warning that you see here just north of Pinehurst, that is that dam breach in the Southern Pines area near the Moore County Airport. Okay, so they issued that for I'm going to say relatively small amount of area. That does not diminish it. If you live in that area, you obviously were going to see all of this water that was flowing down from what I now know must have been the Whispering Pines golf course, or the river course, maybe that is called. We saw the pictures there. And again, I think what ended up happening was water flew out of one of these little areas, maybe along the Little River. It looks like Theogard's Lake possibly was dammed as it made its way either into Spring Valley Lake or into Little River, and that's what gave way. Okay, so when you look at it on the map, it looks like a much bigger quote unquote water feature is the term I used earlier. And you can see then they issued that flash flood warning all down along this little area here. The red areas do document where we had tornado warnings, and we did in fact have tornado warnings kind of right north of there. We did have, again, the confirmed tornado that did impact the executive airport, the Raleigh Executive Airport, damaged a couple hangars and aircrafts, and runways and taxiways were also closed in order to facilitate the removal of debris. We had a tornado reported by a broadcast meteorologist who observed multiple trees down, at least one large pine tree along Moncure Pittsboro Road. And the type of tree does matter because it's going to take a stronger tornado to topple a bigger tree. We did have thunderstorm wind damage, more trees knocked down here near High Park. And then we start getting more flood reports. Pittsboro, road closed. Oakwood Drive. Silver City, numerous instances of flooded roads, stalled cars, and water rescues across the county, including one at a location noted inside this report. Can I open this report? No, not. I cannot right now. We do have Chapel Hill. We have roads closed across Chapel Hill, which were shown in some of those pictures from Page, because we also have houses flooded here along Route 501/15 and South Elliott Road. Chapel Hill still, mail trucks submerged. Okay, I think those are all from the same tweet I just showed you. So you can kind of see how social media does play a role in getting a lot of this verified. As we make our way closer towards Alamance County here, and now I'm up towards Jericho, North Carolina, reports on social media of roads flooded. This is the Milesville Road. I've got reports of Vinson Road flooded, Highway 119, bunch of numerous roads flooded. Roads washed out. Roadway washed out here, John Oakley Road at the bridge in Caswell County. Okay. Also, Highway 158, the East Bridge near Leesburg, was reported to have 2 or 3 feet of water over the roadway and has become impassable. So these are not just little side streets. These are some bigger major roads. We did have a couple other tornado warnings and special marine warnings that did come in portions of eastern North Carolina. Don't have anything verified on those yet, but it did have a tornado damage possibly here in the Wilmington area. Let me tell you about this one. This looks like it occurred real early this morning, maybe about 4:30 or so. National Weather Survey team did find damage consistent with a weak tornado near the Kings Grant subdivision in Wilmington and along Cornelius Moore Avenue and Acorn Branch Road in Wilmington. Damage included large tree limbs, couple of snapped and uprooted trees, and minor shingle damage. So you can see they did have that there. And notably, yes, we will admit it did not have a tornado warning on it. It had a flash flood warning on it, but I don't have a red polygon. And so we'll expect to see this filled out a lot more once we get through the remainder of this event. Hey, if you were with us last night on the live stream, you knew we were pushing a couple things that were going to be major impacts. While we didn't roll out tornadoes, we were talking about flooding and we were talking about rip currents. We did have 2 injuries. Colleton County, South Carolina Emergency Management reports 2 injuries, 2 people rescued from rip currents off of Palmetto Boulevard on Edisto Beach. They were transported to the hospital due to respiratory distress. We do not want to see that. We know the surf is still rough tonight as the storm the low pressure system makes its way across the Carolinas. On Wednesday night, when we're back for our weekly Carolina Weather Group podcast, we'll take another look at all these storm reports because I suspect by that point, the Weather Service will have an opportunity to go back through even more of these, and we'll get even more of these filled out. But you can see how we, again, between looking at where the rainfall totals were and looking at where the storm warnings were and looking at where the storm reports are so far, there is a clear swath right across central North Carolina where some of the major impacts were felt, have been felt, and will be continued to be felt. The Weather Service is still working through a lot of information. And so we expect to see this filled out more as they get an opportunity to move from real time to a more retrospective situation, maybe by tomorrow. And so we'll keep a close eye on those. Again, I mentioned a couple times, if you watch over in the Carolina Weather Net, where we do stream real-time warnings, as they process those storm reports, you'll also hear them there. They come in real time. So even when I'm off the air here in a minute, if you wanted to stay up to date on what that is and what those are, you can definitely stay abreast of those. So let me take some of your questions, because I know I've been processing a lot of information as well too. Jay, one of the supporters of our show over on YouTube memberships, Ryan, said that Chatham County had enough flooding to have a civil danger warning sent out to wireless emergency alerts a while ago. That's good context, Jay. Appreciate that, because that was probably something that did come out of the National Weather Service system. It seems like they probably did that on the local level, so it wasn't even kind of surfaced in my database here. Appreciate that information. Jen on YouTube writes they've had about 10.14 inches of rain so far in north central Chatham County and counting. Bass fishing is in Graham, North Carolina, saying it's ridiculous. Also adding that I-40 is blocked in Mabon. And that makes a lot of sense between the flash flooding and the tornado that we think came through there earlier. To have I-40, a major interstate, closed is obviously quite significant. And I can go ahead and pop back up on the screen for you here a look right now at some of those road closures again. And, some of them are big and some of them are small, but a big one, of course, I-40, here it is. I-40 closed at mile marker 150 to 153 in Alamance County. At least a partial closure there, if not a full closure. Let's see, is this the full closure? We have most or at least some of the road closed also here near Buckhorn Road in Hillsborough in Orange County. And I don't know if these cameras are going to show a whole lot, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Traveling is definitely not advised. Definitely not advised. And we know also Amtrak between Raleigh and Charlotte is also suffering some issues as it flows right on through this same corridor as it makes its way to and fro Greensboro. So if you can keep off the road tonight, please do. And again, here's even a look down here through the central part of North Carolina. These are all flooded roadways. All flooded roadways through here along US 421 and adjacent streets. So we'll learn more about those, I think, as the night progresses. Let me read some more of your comments as we continue on with this special update from the Carolina Weather Group on this Sunday night. I'm James Brierton in Charlotte. Thanks to so many of you joining us on YouTube and the like. Bass fishing, Haw River is flooded. All water treatment plants on the Haw mix at about 18 feet, and it's well over 24 now. I'm not sure if this comment came in before or after we got that update from the National Weather Service, but we can definitely say that is a verifiable contexted information there. And so, that is going to be an issue not only for running water into homes, but also sewage now that is going to get potentially mixed in. So we have to think about what's coming downstream when we talk about the flooding and the cresting of the Haw River and eventually into the Cape Fear. What is in the water is going to be a major topic. Probably not someplace you want to go swimming, at least for the next couple of days or so. Jen writes 10.23 inches now on the Garden Weather Station, extreme north central Chatham County. So Jen writes that at 10:53. noting that it is still raining. And that is an update since Jen wrote the earlier comment at 10:26. So not only is Jen sticking with our live stream tonight, we appreciate that very much, but in a half an hour time frame, got a whole nother tenth of an inch of rain, which, that's a lot of rain. You don't need any more rain. It's still raining there. And, we saw rainfall rates today that were an inch or two an hour, if not more, which is kind of how we got into this situation. And again, it's the tale of two different Carolinas. Watch Woman of the Dragon, Concord, North Carolina, dry as a bone. Where I am in Charlotte, dry as a bone. It was close enough that my phone was telling me that rain was near. You might have an app on your phone that does something similar in case you're biking or fishing or something, right? Hey, rain's nearby. I was 30 miles from the nearest raindrops associated with this storm, but not a lick of rain where I am. So we know that for some of us, today has been a doozy, and for others, it's just been a normal Sunday. Katrina asked, at what point does the state tell people to evacuate? Or is it noting to be that bad? It's a complicated question that I'm not going to pretend to have a full answer to, Katrina. And I should also note that it doesn't necessarily have to come from the state. It might come from local town, city, or county representatives too. And that's just to say that the answer is complicated for that reason. I think it is advisable, and I'm just speaking from one human to another, that if I lived along the Haw River tonight, I would be monitoring and have a bag ready to go. We know that the Haw River is going to be at or near record levels, not seen since Hurricane Fran. And as we've been discussing here, it could be covering up some roadways, could be infiltrating some buildings or some trailer homes, as it was described, for the municipality, the town of Haw River there. And so when will they pull the trigger if they haven't already? I don't know. But it definitely seems like within the realm of possibility that they might decide to do something, or somebody might decide themselves, I'm moving myself to higher ground. Because remember, we hide from the wind. We tell you to seek shelter during a tornado. During a flood, move to higher ground. We don't want you out there on the roads unless you have to be out there on the roads. But if you need to move yourself, your family to higher ground because of rising water, that is a legitimate reason. Just remember, turn around, don't drown. If you come across a flooded roadway, you do not know how deep it is. I'm looking at the Alamance County Facebook page right now. They don't have any updates, but they are using Nixle, which is a website where you can sign up to receive notifications from municipalities. So they're using Nixle in Alamance County to keep people up to date on what's going on. You can find links to that over on the Alamance County Emergency Management Facebook page. They're also going to, I'm sure, use the wireless emergency alerts, as somebody's already noted tonight too. So, wow, Jen says her highest rate, 5.35 inches of rain per hour. That rainfall rate. I was trying to guess, and I didn't want to put words in Jen's mouth when Jen says they've got over 10 inches of rain, but 5 inches of rain per hour as a rainfall rate is excessive for sure. I think really, again, the messaging tonight is if you're along the Haw River, you don't let your guard down. I'm not saying you can't go to bed, but I'm saying if you live along the Haw River, check in with emergency management before you do go to bed. If they use Nixle or Facebook or whatever they might be using to communicate, and have multiple ways to receive notifications during the overnight hours. There were a couple of other. This last comment did remind me a couple other little river and creek gauges I did want to show before we sign off tonight, because I really zeroed in intentionally on the Haw River and eventually the Cape Fear. But working our way to some other communities here. There we go. We do have some other red icons. So the Morgan Creek at White Cross. So zoom this out and resize it so you can see it a little bit better. That's at moderate here. Morgan Creek at White Cross. We also have Morgan Creek near Chapel Hill. Okay, so this is in moderate flooding, 15 feet and rising. I don't know if I have or can get a forecast for this. Now, let's look at the flash flood warning text, shall we? Morgan Creek near Chapel Hill. Flash flood warning, please. Error not found. Thanks. Super helpful. I will get it, guys. Hang on. Well, here's the gist. The gist is that it's not just the Haw River, obviously, but we've got flash flood warnings all the way from the Virginia line back down to Pinehurst. And we could get more. So, if I rattle some of these off, and I'm going to get duplicates, but I want to be thorough. Flash flood warning continues for Caswell County until at least 2:45. I'm going to say at least for all of these because they could be extended. Flash flood warning for Person County until at least 1:45. Flash flood warning for Alamance, Durham, Orange County at least until 1 a.m. Flash flood warning for Alamance, Chatham, Durham, Orange, Randolph until at least 2 a.m. I think this is the one I just clicked because they're giant. Flash flood warning remains in effect. Hoke? Lee and Moore counties until... What time does this go until? Come on, you're slowing down. Oh, 7 more minutes. But a flash flood watch remains in effect until 6 a.m. So flash flood watch is a pretty good indication of which areas could see additional flash flooding. And I can show you... have they discontinued the map that I typically use? Oh, nope, there it goes. Okay, I can show you here where the latest watches are in effect. They are on your screen here. Okay, so on this map, red is the flash flood warnings. This larger green area is a flash flood advisory. Flash flood advisory does mean that flooding is occurring. It's just less than the warning. And then the watch is all of the remaining green area around that. And it goes all the way until 6 a.m. So the watch is just outside of Fayetteville. It goes all the way through. What do I got here? I've got Anson County, right? I got Anson County. I got Stanley County. Davidson County. These aren't labeled. This is just James geography. Winston-Salem. Okay. So you can see Mount Airy. Table Rock State Park? No. What's the state park up here? Caught fire a couple years ago. That also has a flood watch until 6 or 7 or 8 a.m. That one actually said, right? That's 8 a.m. And so you can see, I was trying to get the details of the flood watch. Here it goes. So here's the flood watch. Let's zoom it out a lot because that is giant. Flood watch. Areas where flooding could occur. Well, that just looks ridiculous on the screen. Hang on. But first, let's show you an updated flash flood. What do I got here? I got a flash flood warning coming in first. Let's do that. So updated flash flood warning. This includes, where are we? So this is going to be Southern Pines, Carthage, Pinehurst, Aberdeen. So they're updating the one that I said was going to expire in 7 minutes. Now expires well after that. Just after 11 o'clock, radar estimates and observations indicate between 3 and 7 inches of rain fell across the area, with flash flooding being observed. Numerous rivers and creeks are flooded. And while the rain has ended and the water is beginning to recede, some lingering areas of flooding remain. Again, this is the Southern Pines area. Please do not travel tonight. Life-threatening flash flooding of creeks and streams and urban creeks, highways and streets and underpasses continue. Southern Pines, Cathridge, Pinehurst, Aberdeen, Whispering Pines, Pine Bluff, Robbins, Vass, Cameron, Seven Lakes, Eagle Springs, and Glendon. And so that area again, there it is on the screen right there. So that's like the southern portion of where our flood warnings are. So the waters are starting to recede there, but still dangerously high right now. So we also updated flash flood here for Moore County until 2 a.m. This just coming in from the National Weather Service. Radar estimates and observations between 3 and 7 inches of rain fallen across the area. Numerous creeks and streams have been flooded across the area, and while the rain has ended and the water is beginning to recede, some areas of flooding do remain. And so this is much of that same area. Okay, so again, this is that southern portion of the flood area. Let's talk about the flood watch, and then let's all try to get some sleep if that is the thing we are capable of doing tonight. Flood watch right now coming your way on your screen. Will tell you what you need to know for the overnight areas. And also, if you don't currently live inside of a flood warning, but you live inside of a flood watch, then all the more reason for you to have multiple ways to receive weather warnings, because the flood watch includes Durham and Roxborough, Silver City, Maben, Oxborough, Pittsburgh, Carbo, Chapel Hill, Southern Pines, Thomasville, High Point, Polkton, Lexington, Sanford, Wadesboro, Cothridge, Ashboro, Hillsboro, Aberdeen, Burlington, Rockingham, Graham, Winston-Salem, Pinehurst, Laurinburg, Harchdale, Greensboro, Troy, Albemarle. The flood watch remains in effect until 6 a.m. on Monday. So until just around the time you wake up or there's about. Flooding caused by excessive rainfall continues a small portion of central North Carolina, including the counties of Alamance, Anson, Chatham, Davidson, Durham, Forsyth, Granville, Guilford, Hoke, Lee, Montgomery, Moore, Orange, Person, Randolph, Richmond, Scotland, and Stanley until 6 a.m. The remnants of Tropical Depression Chantal will bring widespread showers and embedded thunderstorms across central North Carolina through early Monday, with storm routes between 1 and 3 inches expected, with locally 4 or more inches. This is like what's still to come. With the highest rates likely to be in the Piedmont and Western Sandhills along and west of U.S. Highway 1. So, multiple ways to receive warnings. All right, we're coming up on an hour of this James-a-thon, and appreciate you guys being with us here on this Sunday night special edition of the Carolina Weather Group. Our Carolina Weather Net, what is it? What does it do? So all night long, once we're done on this stream, our Carolina Weather Net will continue to stream any place you watch YouTube, from your smartphone to your smart TV. And it will read out warnings, watches. It'll even read out verified storm reports. So you can kind of get a context of what's happening. And you don't necessarily have to be staring at the screen all night, because it's going to be shouting out to you. Because there are situations like this one that I can't independently verify, but this sounds plausible. I've been listening to Orange County and Chapel Hill all night. I presume a police scanner or a fire scanner of some sort. And they've been stuck in homes and even mentioned the fear of people trapped in cars in the mall parking lot. This is definitely happening in some areas. And I think that last report, again, kind of reminds us that there are definitely populated portions of the state. There are rural portions of the state equally impacted tonight, too. And hey, this comment is so true over on YouTube. Southern Virginia is about to get rocked, too. Yeah, the remnants of this tropical depression is making its way into Virginia. With, again, flash flooding, heavy rain. So, I'm going to admit, Joseph, I don't know what CFS is, and maybe I should, but what does Haw River 56,700 CFS near Bynum mean? We have a minute or two left here in the stream. We know we talked about this area because this is where we're expected to see that potentially record-breaking flooding come the morning hours. But what does CFS mean, Joseph? Cubic feet per second. I'm guessing while I wait for you to type. Obviously, there's a slight delay in the stream, so I'm just kind of stalling until I get an answer. But that might be a flow thing. I'm guessing. Cubic feet per second. Okay, thank you for confirming, and I hope you guys understand that if I don't know something, I'm going to admit it. So, again, yeah, we're gonna watch here. You can see it on your screen that the forecast for this portion of Haw River is going to be right up there against the Hurricane Fran record. And we're continuing to watch the river climb here at about 18 feet. So, again, if you're watching with me right now over on YouTube, you don't really have to do much. I'm going to automatically take you over to the Carolina Weather Net. If you're watching on Facebook or listening to our audio podcast, just know that that feed is available to you over on our YouTube channel, so you guys can check that out. I hope everyone remains safe. I saw a comment earlier. We're thinking about the people in North Carolina. We're thinking about the people in South Carolina impacted by today's tropical storm, and of course, by the people impacted by the horrible, horrible flooding in Texas. We're going to be looking more into that for this week's Carolina Weather Group weekly podcast, which comes your way Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here, wherever you're watching or listening to my voice on this Sunday night. I hope that we all get back up on our feet here in the Carolinas tomorrow morning and start a new work week after a long holiday. And appreciate you guys being with me here on this Sunday night. But for now, I'm James Brierton in Charlotte. I'll talk to you again real soon. Have multiple ways to receive weather warnings overnight. Bye-bye.